NFL, you have to be a little smarter with your body, and it was just high-speed helmet-to-helmet collisions, you know, and my brain lost that battle. So it's just kind of the way it goes.
Yeah. Now, tell me about in your first year with the Rams, what was your most memorable game, do you think?
Well, by far, my first game, of course, just because I was so nervous. And, you know, like I said, I was starting, and this was big-time football. You know, it was my first. We played the Philadelphia Eagles that year, and in Philadelphia, so the stadium was packed. And I had never played in a stadium like that before, and just the surrealness of it was pretty overwhelming. But, you know, you calm down quick, and then you go out and play football, and that's it. And then obviously, you know, a bigger step up from that was the Super Bowl, which unfortunately we lost to the New England Patriots. But being on that kind of stage was pretty cool feeling.
Mm-hmm. Did your parents get to come see you in your first NFL games?
You know, I don't remember if they made the trip to Philadelphia or not, but they definitely were at my first home game. You know, they pretty much came to pretty much every home game and some away games. But that was a long time ago, so I don't remember if they made it to Philadelphia or not.
Do you remember how your family felt when you did make it into the NFL?
Well, of course they were elated, you know, because now that I have a son, I understand the pride and the joy that a parent can see in their son or daughter succeeding and actually accomplishing their goals. So I don't know exactly what they were feeling, but I can imagine as being a parent myself that I'm sure they were pretty happy.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, what do you remember most about playing with the Rams, do you think?
The thing about the Rams was I was drafted by that team, and for the first 3 years we experienced a lot of success. And so I was really accepted in the community and with the fans and just around the city. And so it was just kind of a cool feeling because St. Louis is the type of town, especially when you win, the sports figures are kind of adored there. And so it kind of just feels good when you go places and people are rooting for you and they're on your side, and it's kind of have a small town feel to it that we kind of lost a little bit towards the end there because we weren't playing very well. But we were one of the best teams in the NFL for 3 years, and we definitely felt that appreciation from the city and the fans, and just being a part of that was a really good feeling.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What other NFL teams have you played with since the Rams?
I played with the Washington Redskins and the Chicago Bears, each for a season.
Okay. Do you have any specific memories or anything that stands out from playing with those teams?
Not especially, because I wasn't there long enough, and we didn't play very good football while I was there, so it was not a great experience. So, you know, definitely I cherish my experience with the Rams more so than the other teams.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, I was looking at your biography, and it said that when the Redskins signed you, you were the highest paid safety at that time. Can you tell me a little bit about that, like how you felt about that? How it impacted you to have that label? You know?
Well, it was kind of a gift and a curse. Obviously, it was a gift because financially it was very rewarding. And so, you know, that's just, it was a great thing for me and my family. On the other end, it was kind of a curse because sometimes when that kind of distinction is placed on you, there's a lot of undue pressure or expectations, sometimes very unrealistic expectations put on you, just mainly by the media and the fans. And, you know, the fans get a taste of what the media writes, and, you know, all of a sudden perception becomes reality. So instead of the focus being on what I'm doing, it's the topic of conversation was, well, does he deserve it? Is he worth it? And it just, the game became about the money instead of what it should be. It's just going out and having fun and playing and making plays. So I had a lot of pressure on myself. Some of it was self-imposed, but, you know, there was a lot of external forces there too.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What happened once you left the Raiders?
What happened?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, the last team that you played with was the Raiders, the last NFL team?
Yeah, well, I was with them for a training camp.
For a training camp,
yeah.
Okay. So what's happened since then, I guess, is the question.
What's happened since then is not a lot. Kind of, for about a year there, I was kind of in a state of limbo where I was still wanting to play football and still hoping to get an offer or an opportunity to play with another football team. So I was in this weird space where it was football season. I wasn't playing, but I wanted to play and thought there was still a chance to play. So very, very strange. And so it was kind of like a dead period in my life where I didn't really know what to do with myself. And where you're still training, but whereas before you were training for something, trying to get ready for a football season, I was still doing that, but not really, because I was unsure of what was going to happen. So it's just very strange. And so I was very fortunate that, my son was born that year, so I had the opportunity to be around him and watch him grow and have that aspect of my life that wasn't there before, which was a tremendous blessing for me. But on the professional side, I was just kind of in a weird, numb space.
Okay. Now, you've been involved with the United Football League, is that correct?
Well, I was thinking about it, but I decided that wasn't going to be for me.
Okay.
Yeah, it was going to be something that I was going to try and, get my feet wet and show that I could still play and compete. But at the end of the day, I didn't feel like the risk was worth the reward.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How have any injuries impacted your sports career, do you think? This is something that everybody's had to deal with at one point or another.
Injuries, I've been fortunate that I've had some bad injuries, but nothing as severe as a lot of players, and nothing that really can truly affect me in my quality of life today as we sit now. Back in 2004, I had a pretty serious back injury that affected my play and was kind of a scary, could have been a career-threatening thing, but I was able to overcome that. And you don't realize it at the time, but now with all the things that have been brought to light in the media and kind of after your career is kind of over, the concussions definitely played an effect. And, kind of a scary thing going into the future when you hear about a lot of problems that players are having now because of a result of a lot of concussions. So, those are things that you have to think of, especially when you have a family.
Mm-hmm. What are some of those, some of the impacts, do you think, that you've heard about of some of those injuries?
Well, obviously having a back injury is pretty cut and dry. It's just, continued arthritis and degeneration in your back. But, the concussion thing is kind of scary when you talk about, severe depression and onset of dementia later on in life and these type of things. And definitely I do feel the depression as a result of a concussion is a real thing. It's something that I've actually gone through. At the time, I didn't really correlate the two because you kind of feel like you're invincible and injuries don't really affect you, but I could definitely see where that's a big deal, and it really needs to be addressed by players and team physicians.
Mm-hmm. I think it's one of those sides of the story that's not really talked about, or a lot of people don't know much about.
Definitely, and it's a serious side of the game that you're never going to get rid of it. And I don't know what the answer is, but it definitely is a problem.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And now that you have a son, you have a lot more to think about in that regard.
Yeah, 100%.
What are some of your overall most memorable moments in professional football? Maybe a game or something like that.
I want to make a couple adjustments, just varying my picture. You can slide your chair on the same plane, just straight back. And then Adam, if you can open yourself up a little bit, kind of rotate your chair. I guess that'd be to your right. A bit there.
More?
That should be good. Let me see. And then Junior, if you can come right here so you're in this eye line.
Is that all right? talked about your first game with the Rams, and you could tell me a little bit more about, you could describe in more detail about the Super Bowl game and kind of when you came onto the field and that whole experience, or if there's something else that's even something about, you know, some special moment related to where you were at or who was there at the game or anything like that.
Cool, I need to come way back. I just want to open up more. I don't want to have you in the front.
You're messing up my rhythm here, dude.
I cheated your chair in this time as opposed to. Go ahead.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
Um,
Now I'm way back here, so.
my memorable moment, it's hard to really choose one thing, because kind of, as I look back at my career, it's all kind of one big memory, like one big long memory that just like doesn't stop. So it's like one of those scenes in the movie where you're kind of flashing back and everything kind of happens at once, and that's kind of how I feel about the game. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to choose one thing. You know, it would have been, obviously, I can imagine, you know, being able to win a championship. That's something that people could say is a one definite place in their career, but I don't have that. So I just look back at my career and just, I really appreciate it and enjoy every part of it. And just being able to be part of such an organization and such a game as the NFL National Football League on that level is just truly a treat.
Mm-hmm. What about, you know, you're training and you're working hard to get up to the point where you can get into the NFL and then compete there. Was there a game or a time where you remember, like, man, this is paying off, everything's clicking, you know, you got to do something special or whatever, you know, in a particular game? Anything like that?
Not really, because it was just, I don't really think you have time to think about that kind of stuff while you're playing, because everything happens so fast, and you kind of have to be in the present and in the moment to be successful. And so there really isn't a lot of time to reflect and look back upon, like, what you're actually doing. Mm-hmm. You know, now that I've kind of had some time to sit back, you know, more and more things are coming to me, but I don't think enough time has passed from me leaving the game to where I can sit and think of individual memories.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's fair. All right. Are there any records that you hold, like from high school or college, anything like that?
Any records? No, I don't think there's any records currently that I might hold. I was close in college. I think I was, for career, I had the tackles for loss record, but then Terrell Suggs beat that. I'm pretty sure he beat that because he had some pretty good years there. So I don't think that would be a record, but I was close.
That's good. Okay. Now you talked about Coach Loper. Are there any other coaches or important people, you know, such as your parents, that have helped you get to the point in your sports career that you are at today?
Well, you know, first and foremost, I think your parents are key. You know, because that's, for kids, that's the closest person in your life that can mold you and help you and support you to accomplish your goals. And I think it's very, very difficult to achieve anything in life without great parents who support you. So that's key in any person's life. And then there's definitely been coaches and people who have been a huge influence. Definitely Coach Loper, you know, in high school. I've got to put my trainer, Jay Schroeder, in there. He was a huge influence and a huge force in my life. You know, college, you know, I had great coaches. You know, my first linebacker coach, Lyle Setensich, who was able to convince me to walk on, was a huge influence. And when I got to the NFL, you know, one of the greatest coaches I've ever been around, Lovie Smith, who was my defensive coordinator in St. Louis. was instrumental in my success. So I definitely put those people up there.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit about conditioning. This is something that we've also asked most of the people that we've interviewed. Were there ever any moments, as either could be in high school, it could be in college, or later in your career, where you had some conditioning exercises or rituals or whatever that were pretty tough, and you were just like, man, this is crazy, or just something that stood out in your mind as far as conditioning?
Well, pretty much since I had met my trainer in high school when I was 17, you know, our entire time together was kind of what you're talking about as far as just intense, hardcore training. And it's obvious, I've been actually known, and people stop me all over the place when they meet me or they get introduced to me. One of the first things that I normally get from people is, do you still do that crazy training? And that's kind of, my name is kind of synonymous with training and getting results and pushing your body to the limit. So there wasn't one period in particular. It was just kind of, it was part of my life, was training that way and getting my body prepared to do what I asked it to do.
Mm-hmm. Can you give an example of the type of training that you'd be doing?
It would be really hard to put into words or just a small little soundbite what it is that we do. It just, people have asked me to explain it, and it's really hard. It's something that you almost have to experience or try yourself or actually see in person, because words just can't really put a picture to it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So based on that, what was it like when you first started doing those exercises? I mean, you synonymous with training, so did you just go with the flow, or were you like, okay, or what was, do you remember kind of like, because Cody was telling us something about like just dropping you. It was almost like physically just dropping you, and you had to deal with whatever happened afterwards.
Yeah, I've had stuff like that. I've been fortunate enough in my life to kind of, one of the gifts I've had is just to kind of figure out who needs to be a part of my life and who doesn't need to be a part of my life. And so I've always kind of been drawn to certain people who have been instrumental in my success. And I kind of knew from day one that Jay was the guy that I needed to be with. And I never really questioned him. I just did it because I felt like, in my mind, I felt this is what athletes do. This is how athletes are supposed to train. And where I was getting a lot of people on the outside saying, no, you can't do this, this isn't right, you shouldn't be doing it, it's too much, you're going to get hurt. I didn't listen to them. Just in my heart, my instincts told me that I need to listen to this guy, because my body's going to change and get me to where I needed to be, and I was right.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just give me just a little bit more angle this way? Sorry, I'm going to turn you back towards where you were before. Just a slight rotate to your left. Just move your chair while you open your body. There we go.
Okay. We just have a couple more questions. So, tell me a little bit about your wife, Jennifer, how you met her.
Well, technically, she's not my wife yet. We're
Okay.
engaged. We're getting married in March.
Okay. Future wife.
Yeah, future wife. But she is, we met, of all places, we met in Las Vegas. And we were at, I was at one of my favorite restaurants, Nine Steakhouse, and I saw her walk in, and it was one of those moments where I very, very rarely, if ever, get it. I have to meet this girl. Like, who is she? I've got to meet her. And so I was so preoccupied trying to figure out how I'm going to get introduced to her, how am I going to meet this girl. It just kind of overwhelmed me. And my buddy, who was a busboy at the time, I kind of asked him, I said, hey, who is that girl? And he says, you know, her name's Jennifer Walcott. And I said, I have to meet her. And so he kind of arranged it, and somehow she ended up kind of standing near our table, and I struck up a conversation with her, and we haven't been separated since.
That's very romantic.
Extremely.
And you said you have one son, Jet.
Yeah.
Right?
We
And
do have one son.
He was born in 2008?
Yep.
Okay.
2008.
What does it mean to you to have a son now?
Well, it's outstanding. You know, I knew I had always wanted kids, but I wasn't quite sure when I was going to pull the trigger. just because I was kind of selfish and really enjoyed my life the way it was going. And when he was born, it really, it's not it's a cliche, but it's real. It's just like your whole world changes. And so the one thing that I do kind of regret is I wish I had had him earlier, because I would have wanted him to experience the NFL and being part of the locker room and just being part of that culture and that crowd. I think that would have been really cool for him. And he's probably not going to be able to experience that, so that's kind of the drawbacks of waiting till a little bit later in life to have a kid. But, you know, he truly is a blessing, and he's so fun to be around.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What kind of advice do you think you would pass on to him now that you've gone through all the experience that you have, you know, in your athletic career?
The advice is that you can't live, I don't think it's possible to live somebody else's dream. So, you know, he's got to find out. My job as a parent is to prepare him and give him the tools so that whatever dream he has or whatever inspires him, he's going to be equipped to reach them and have the tools to do it. So I would just tell him and try and teach him throughout life to find out what truly inspires you, and then just go after it, you know, and don't listen to anybody else except for those who support you. And it's really that simple.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like you might tell him too to pay attention to your heart about who you should, you know, connect with, you know, to know that this is the right person for you or this is not, or whatever, too.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's part of, like, those are some of the tools that as a parent that you can help give your kid and teach them, you know, how to trust their instincts and how to trust their heart and just be prepared to go through the world and know that, you know, at the end of the day, they're responsible for everything that they do, you know, and they can't make excuses, and they can't blame anybody else, and they can't blame their environment. That the good, the bad, or the ugly, it all comes down to the decisions and the choices that they make.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, what do you see as your future in your sports career from today on?
You know, I haven't decided, but I'm leaning towards, and I think I would like to pursue a career on the TV side of the game, whether it would be doing color or being an analyst. I'm not ready, or I'm not willing to just completely walk away from the NFL and do something completely different. You know, I still love the game and want to be a part of it in some capacity. So I think that would be a good opportunity for me to stay with the game.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, what does it mean to you to be inducted into the Chandler Sports Hall of Fame?
I think it's great. I think just like everything, you know, for the most part, my career started in Chandler High, or at Chandler, and you know, that's where it all began. So it's my roots, and so it's definitely an honor, and I think it's great when, you know, your hometown recognizes you and you're able to be a part of that. Because sometimes it's very easy to kind of lose sight of, like, where you came from, and, you know, especially having experienced a very big and a very grand stage. It's really important in life to go back to the beginning, go back to basics, and Chandler High is where it all started.
Mm-hmm. We talked about this a little bit before we started the interview, but what does Arizona mean to you, since you were almost a native to
Pretty
the
much.
state?
I'm an Arizona boy. You know, I don't want to live anywhere else. And I think it's a great state. I think it's a great place for a family to grow and to raise a family. And it has so much to offer. It has everything. And I'm very, very fortunate that I had the opportunity to grow up here.
Okay, great. Do you have any words of advice for the current ASU football team? They're having a little up and downs right now.
Oh man, they got to find a way to finish. They got to find a way to win. You know, for some reason, when it's on the line, when they have to make a play, it's got to be them and not the other team. You know, and they got to figure out a way to dig deep and get that.
Mm-hmm. Do you think you'd ever want to coach?
I don't know about ever. Right now, no, because I don't think I want to live the coach's lifestyle. You know, I don't think I want to move my family around the country every couple years and work 17-hour days and kind of do that.